Welcome to Above the Garage.
Hi, friends. Welcome to our very first discussion of The Veil. Let's do our round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Raquel.
Hi, I'm Deanna.
Hi, I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Kate. All right, The Veil is finally here. Because we started this podcast, feels like ages ago, with The Handmaid's Tale. We have a special place in our little podcast heart for Elisabeth Moss. And in this case, she brought along several of her Handmaid's crew members with her. So we got to follow it being filmed through the mountains of Turkey and then Paris and London on various friends' Instagram accounts. So we've been looking forward to seeing what they're up to on screen for over a year now, I think.
Yeah, we've been really looking forward to it. I love looking at everyone's stories. It's cool to see now that it's coming to life. I also really love the new people that aren't in Handmaids, especially probably my favorite is Yumna Marwan, who plays Adilah.
Oh my God, she's so good. I hope to see her in more. Well, she'll be on our radar now, so we will see her in more, even if it's not mainstream.
Yeah. I'm sure after this she will be getting.
Yeah, she's so good, and she's also beautiful.
Yes. Obviously, acting with Elisabeth might be quite terrifying because she's so good, but I really think that Yumna is holding her own, definitely, and they're really balancing
for sure.
Well with each other.
Right, yeah. I would be intimidated and do terribly, probably, but not her. No, she's awesome. I also have always loved Josh Charles, which I will probably talk about again later.
Yes, and I've actually just realized that the actor Dali Ben Salah, I hope I'm saying that right, who plays Malik, was in James Bond, No Time to Die. So I have seen him before somewhere.
I remember they started filming, was it January or February last year, 2023? One of them, because they had just begun filming in Turkey when there was that 7.8 magnitude earthquake, which was terrifying and super sad because I think there were tens of thousands of fatalities throughout the area. So I'm glad they're bringing attention to the area, at least, and I'm glad that the crew was fine. And I actually just started another show like the same day I watched this that is also kicks off on the Turkey-Syrian border. Have you guys seen The Gentleman?
Oh, is that the one that's based on The Gentleman? You know the movie The Gentleman that had Hugh Grant and by Guy Ritchie? Is it by Guy Ritchie, is it?
It is by Guy Ritchie, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Back to the subject at hand. We shall now dig into the episode. Actually, first, one more thing. Give credit where credit is due. The Veil was created and run by Stephen Knight, a British screenwriter and actor, famous for several shows, right?
He wrote Eastern Promises, which, if you remember, was a massive movie back with Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah.
And he's done Peaky Blinders, which is really popular.
Obviously, yeah.
One that I didn't know he'd done is All the Light We Cannot See. It was recently on Netflix.
I loved that. I read the book before, so I was really excited when the show came out, and the show did not disappoint. All right, so let's dig in. Lizzie's got a new accent. It opens with her in an airport. She's Portia for the moment, and she's meeting Tomas, a man who she has quite happily betrayed, though it still takes him quite a long moment to figure that out after she drops the Interpol line. Not very quick, this one. So from the outset, it's pretty obvious she's a spy, and an effective one at that, after tricking the unfortunately slow Tomas into trusting her for exactly 37 days. She downs her champagne as Interpol takes over and then orders up a new name on her way out. She fancies the name Imogen for her trip to Istanbul. I googled the name of Imogen in case it was more than just enjoying the sound of the name, and it also means maiden or daughter. I feel like the whole daughter thing is probably important in this show, judging from the brief flashback glimpses we get from her. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
You think she had a daughter that she lost?
Or, I don't know if it's like a memory of her being a young girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it looks like her from the back, right? No, you're right.
But it could just be her daughter, which is also what I thought, because she's obviously dreaming of a man, so. When there was a red dress, I was like, bro, this is too close to Handmaids.
Well, and the hanging of the woman like immediately threw me back into Handmaid's mentality because you have to kind of adjust your brain to receive images like that. It's awful.
Yeah.
So yes, same. I had the same reaction. Oh, I love her blonde hair though. I missed. Speaking of Handmaids again, I love Lizzie's blonde hair in season 1. I think that was my favorite look of hers, and it's nice to see it back.
The length of it as well.
Deanna, do you prefer her short brown hair, did you say?
No, no, yeah, it is bring memories from Jaime State, right? But I think she looks cool because it also, when it's short, it reminds me of Peggy.
Oh, from Mad Men. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Mad Men, so I gotta revisit that. The next scene appears to be a refugee camp with women spilling out of their tents to greet a truck that's just come in with food. The woman in the pretty purple hijab, who was already at the camp, jumps under the truck to hand out the flour to the mothers first. A woman in the crowd thinks she recognizes her and starts screaming that she's ISIS before all hell breaks loose. The woman in purple fights back, but the crowd is too overpowering and they want her dead. It's pretty awful to watch them putting a noose around her neck and pulling her up, hanging her in front of the crowd. But thankfully for her, one of the soldiers starts firing into the air to disrupt the scene, and it works. She falls, still alive, as a soldier helps her up. But, like, why did she get up on the truck if she was truly this person from ISIS? It's so completely insane to have put yourself in a position to be looked at by so many people. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's like, I don't know if we're meant to believe that she's there to, like, plan something out. Like, I don't know who she is yet. So I don't know if there's more to that than her just escaping.
Right.
That's kind of like the vibe we get later on when they're saying that she's a breakaway cell or something like that. Is that what they...
Right. I guess I'm still looking at it from this point. She did something bad before. She was ISIS before. You're right. Like, there's a whole other question. Is she planning this attack on the West? But even if she just did something bad before and she's wants to be good, whatever, you still need to protect yourself from that situation. It's crazy. They'll be like, here, everyone, look at me, you know? Like, it's so crazy to me. But anyway. And now we get to our first Shakespearean quote of the show. What country friends is this? From the 12th Night. This quote was quite helpful to me in getting a handle on some of the other things in the show. I had previously researched the meaning of the name Imogen, but a couple of Shakespeare quotes into the episode had me falling down a time warp into my college years at William and Mary. My second major was English. It occurred to me that the names Lizzie's character uses might also have their roots in Shakespeare writing. Portia was from Merchant of Venice. And Google helped me find Imogen as well. I didn't know this one, but the daughter of King Cymbeline in his play Cymbeline. And the similarities don't end there. Both Portia in The Merchant of Venice and Viola from The Twelfth Night disguise themselves as men. I'll not go so far as to assume Imogen is really a man here, but obviously, obviously disguises abound in both the Veil and the stories that the Veil references. And the last side note, while I didn't find Adilah in any relevant literature, I'm sure she could very well be there in Arabic literature that Google did not help me with. But the name Adilah means just and fair. So anyway, we also get her first cigarette of many. She lights up before heading into the camp.
I literally said out loud, dude, you smoking like a chimney. It's like every scene, it was like, yep, new one. New one.
When she like is making the call to her mom, and then she literally lights up, but then puts her out literally within a second. Like, I don't even know if she pulls it. And then I was like, she like preparing herself to be like, is that part of her personality, new personality? Is she meant is Imogen, is she meant to be like smoking, and she doesn't smoke in real life? And then was she preparing herself to be smoking in that scene that we just discussed?
No, that's a good question, because she doesn't do it in front of, like, she didn't do it by herself when she was driving up there, right?
Yeah, don't know what to think about the smoking thing yet.
The other day I was hearing an interview from an actor, I don't remember, but they said that filming smoking is difficult because you have to, like, they have to, always like calculate it, you know, how much you smoke from the cigarette, and then again, you know, so it's and she's smoking so much here. So I was
there's special cigarettes for that, right? They're not actual cigarettes and they do burn slower.
Well, so the only thing I know about this was from when we interviewed McKenna Grace, talking about how Lizzie taught her to smoke, and she was like, well, they weren't real cigarettes, it's like some herbal, I don't know, but she's smoking it. She is like, it's not just a prop. Anyway, interesting question. An Aussie bloke seems to be, he was Australian, right, Kimberly? I'm not off here.
Yes, and I recognize him from some Australian shows, which I do not remember what they are, but I was like, hey, it's you.
I know you.
Yeah.
Well, he seems to be in charge of the camp. He shows her around. There's an estimated 10,000 refugees here, mostly Syrian and mostly women. Imogen suddenly realizes it was her birthday yesterday, and her mom is going to be worried about her. Interesting cover story, but anyway. First, she traipses off to the frozen toilets. En route, she sees the tent sheltering the woman in purple, whose name we learn is Adilah, according to her story. She's being guarded by a soldier for her own protection in theory, but the Aussie very transparently explains that the guard fucks off at night and she'll have her throat slit by morning, most likely. He doesn't seem to mind that outcome one bit.
Just to go back a little bit, I love the song choice of Massive Attack, Teardrop. It was such a good song to put over the awesome shots of the snow. The cinematography is already very good, and I will say that Bonnie Elliott is the cinematographer the first 3 episodes, and Lizzie obviously likes to take her faves everywhere because she also did some of Shining Girls. So
I really like the what's it called? Bird's
Eye View.
Yeah, that one. With like the road, it looks like a V from Vale. So I thought that was really cool.
That was cool.
If it wasn't intentional. But...
Dana Reed is also on this project, who's also directed for Handmaid's Tale and Shining Girls, right?
Yes, and Shining Girls, yeah.
Yeah, which is awesome. And a fellow Aussie, right?
She is, and she's from P-Town.
Oh, and Perth, no less. We're big fans of her. And I love that she collaborates with a lot of the same people.
Yeah.
From project to project.
Also, when we first see that shot of Lizzie when she gets out of the car, she looks beautiful. Like the blush that Burton did on her cheeks to make it look like, it's obviously freezing there, but like her blue eyes and like the pink of her cheeks was just like.
Props to Burton
in this case, he is her personal makeup artist, right? Like in Handmaid's, he's the head of the department.
Yeah,
but in this one, it's only for her.
Yeah, the head makeup artist for the show is Avril Carpentier. I hope I'm saying that right. But yeah, Burton has the exclusive title of Elisabeth personal.
That's a nice promotion. Just to do Lizzie. I mean, it's still like a full-time job in and of itself, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
Very cool. Okay, yeah. So the woman's protection is just a facade that's not going to last long. Good thing that Imogen has appeared. And we get a little peek inside the tent next, where Adilah is reading Jules Verne and somehow still successfully hiding a cell phone, which she unwraps and wraps back up. Imogen has finally made it to the comms tent, and once again her birthday story is effective, forcing the Frenchman in the tent to leave her to her conversation with her mumsy. She lights up a cigarette for extra effect, though. She directly puts it out after she's successfully pissed off and driven away the comms guy with it. Turns out her mother is a sexy Frenchman working for DGSE, and it seems the whole point of her trip was actually this mysterious woman in purple, judging from the phone conversation. The prints on the woman came back inconclusive, and the Americans are circling, but the French want to keep her, so he tells her to get her to him quickly and try to figure out who she is in the meantime. Like a good mom, he cautions her to take care before hanging up. Imogen then approaches the prisoner's tent and easily convinces the guard to leave. See what a facade he is. Imogen's polite and knocks, though, awaiting an invitation first, and Adilah invites her in. Imogen's been telling everyone that she works for an NGO this whole time, to doubtful success, but the end of the scene cements the obvious truth that she's some sort of agent, and definitely not an NGO administrator. First, though, Adilah insults Imogen's French accent, which I think she takes it pretty well. Adilah shows her a freshly infected stab wound and explains she's not taking any pills given to her by these people who hate her, which I agree with. Good instincts. Adilah speaks English well, having learned it at school outside of Paris. They both share a love of English poets. Imogen swears her protection to Adilah just before we see the Aussie stepping out of his tent and zipping up, a refugee hurrying out of his tent, and the obvious implication that he's taking advantage of the refugees sexually. I feel bad for the comms guy. He doesn't want to smoke in his tent, which I think is a very reasonable request, but nobody cares but me. The Aussie bloke is here to find out what Imogen and her mom discussed, and is of course disappointed to hear that he knows nothing. He's become quite suspicious that she was not actually sent here to help them, something that both of them have commented on. Nobody sends anyone to help them. Why now? Do you guys feel bad for the comms guy that everyone keeps smoking out of his own tent?
Yeah, it's the worst when someone smokes in your, like, if you don't want them to smoke in your room, it just stinks that thing out for, like...
It's in his room, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not, like, in a room that he's in, like, he's in their tent and saying don't smoke. It's literally where he has to, like, remain. It's so fucked up.
He doesn't even, like, be working, like, he's playing a game, so I don't know if that's his, like, off time. And then just...
Yeah, there's probably not a ton of communications going on, but... Although it's funny, like... It really wasn't that long ago when every restaurant was full of smoke and bar, and it's pretty crazy to think that in my 20s, like everywhere was full of smoke, and now it's never. Good change.
Yeah.
Back to the ladies' heart-to-heart, we learn Adilah was discovered as a young woman and sent to Paris to be a model, where she discovered alcohol and drugs and at least one bad man. Imogen points out this still doesn't quite explain the ISIS part. And why was she hanging out flour to moms? Which is a strange question, but I've also questioned why she was up there. But the important part of the conversation is we learn Adilah has a child in Paris, and she's the only reason Adilah still wants to live. She just wants to have a life with her. Imogen agrees a mother should never have to lose her child, in a way that makes you kind of wonder if Imogen knows something about that personally.
Yeah.
She quickly switches tracks. She'll get Imogen antibiotics and get her out of Syria to a camp in Turkey to be processed properly. So they're in Syria right now. Once again, though, Imogen's cigarette goes unsmoked when women attack the tent they're in, trying to kill Adilah. That's 2 wasted cigarettes in a land where it must be hard to get cigarettes.
And the price of cigarettes these days is just like ridiculous. So that's a lot of money.
Money down the drain.
Wasted. Yeah. I just had a sneaking suspicion now, thinking of the kid, like, was it maybe part of the reason why? Like, obviously, we have literally no idea because it's episode 1.
Yeah, it's tough to talk about episode 1.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got, like, the kid maybe, like, more involved in, like, her decision-making to have done what she's done, unless she's a complete just asshole.
Well, again, I don't know if we could trust her yet. So I don't even know if the kid is actually real yet. So
yeah,
true.
I'm assuming that the kid is real, though absolutely she could not be. Just going with the assumption that she's real. It makes so little sense to have joined ISIS. I don't get it.
Imogen's mission is to make her talk, get her to talk, and make her trust her and that stuff. But it was so easy for her to get her to talk, like Imogen was like, let's tell my childhood story, right.
To
show her, she can forget that stuff. And then she's like telling everything. I don't know. I also think that it's also a strategy by Adilah, to make her to maybe that decision at the end.
To get Imogen to do what she wanted. And like Imogen is also not being very forthcoming. So it is even more suspicious that Adilah is, So yeah, it's a good question to know. Looking forward to episode 2. I didn't say this earlier, but we don't watch ahead before we record so that we can have an honest reaction and not accidentally have feelings we shouldn't have about things. Back to the action at hand. Unfortunately for their attackers, Imogen is also quite accomplished at defense, and the 2 women succeed in escaping the tent through hand-to-hand combat. When the crowd chasing them grows, Imogen pulls out the gun she hadn't even felt necessary to use until now. It's effective in scaring everyone off, but her cover is blown with the Aussie. He accuses her of being a liar, and she accuses him of taking advantage of the refugee women to get off. She blackmails him to let them leave, or else she'll write up a report on his behavior. This seems to me to be a very clear case of she's going to write that report anyway, but it worked. He lets her go, but not before reminding her that the woman she's trying to help is a murderer, and asks her again who the fuck she is, a question she seems to get a lot because she never answers. She's successfully smoking a cigarette, finally, as Adilah comes out to the car to leave. She gets one more warning from the refugee staff. This woman's only desire is to cut your throat. And they're off across a beautiful snowy landscape. Shockingly, Imogen agrees when Adilah asks her not to smoke in the car, and this concession commences road trip negotiations. Imogen points out they'll need to talk, but not about boring things like sex and food and music. Let's start with family. And then she's getting a call from France that she doesn't pick up as the scene ends.
I was impressed with Elisabeth's fighting skills here. It's fun to see her doing like the stunts and things like that already. I'm sure the show's gonna like pick up with like a lot more, like we've seen on the previews, and that one where she literally, what did she say on Jimmy Kimmel? She literally broke her back.
Broke her back, yeah.
I'm excited to see that happen. Obviously, I'm gonna be like watching for like which part she broke her back in, like if they kept it in. But yeah, it's fun to see her doing the stunts and stuff.
I know. I think that'd be like a really fun part of the job.
Considering that she before complained about running too much, like the other day she was asked about that for the Invisible Man, she had to run a lot, that stuff, and she would like complain, no, I had to run too much.
To be fair, I would much prefer like learning self-defense over just running too. So I'm with her on that. I would get bored of running. Back in France, her contact from earlier is inside the DGSD surveillance room, watching the blue dot that is Imogen and Adilah progress through Syria towards Turkey. His hand rested on a file called Le Djinn de Raqqa, which we soon learn means the genie of Raqqa. Raqqa is a city in Syria. I just also looked up Raqqa for a little bit of background information. And during the Syrian civil war, the city was captured in 2013 by the Syrian opposition and then by the Islamic State. So ISIS made the city its capital in 2014. But it was short-lived. As a result, the city was hit by airstrikes from Syrian government, Russia, the United States, and several other countries. Most non-Sunni religious structures in the city were destroyed by ISIS, while others were converted into Sunni mosques. On October 17, 2017, following a lengthy battle that saw massive destruction to the city, the Syrian Democratic Forces declared the liberation of Raqqa from the Islamic State to be complete. Back with Imogen and Adilah, they're discussing English poets again. They both like Shakespeare. Adilah's father was a teacher, and her grandfather was an intellectual of the Algerian kind, also a hero of the Algerian Revolution. Grandpa was okay, the rest trash. What's that?
I like that thing that she said where she was like, she has a trash can in her memory and most of her family are in there. I bet everyone has like someone in their trash can.
Yeah, for sure.
In their brain.
Turns out Imogen's contact in Paris's name is Malik. He's meeting with his boss, who calls Adilah the most wanted woman in the world. Impressive. Her name is Adilah El-Adrisi and claims she's a French citizen from Paris. The boss counters that she is a senior ISIS commander called Sabaine Al-Kubaisi, a French Algerian from Marseille. She was positively identified by no less than 6 Yazidi witnesses. Back to the road trip, Adilah pulls an actual picture of her daughter out of her bra and shows Imogen, tells her that she's 10, and Imogen responds in a rather surprising way for someone she's trying to gain the trust of. How could a mother leave a child behind? Didn't you think she asked that, like, kind of aggressively, offensively?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's what made me think, well, maybe she's had a child maybe that's either passed away or I don't know, something like that, and
left.
That's why she was so
aggressive. Yeah,
either being forced to leave her own child behind.
Yeah, not by choice. Adilah, offended, asks if Imogen has children, and she says she doesn't. And then Adilah answers her question. She just couldn't bring her with her. Malik and his boss are still discussing her, and this is where we learn of her third alias, the Genie of Al-Raqqa. The word for genie means shapeshifter in its original Arabic meaning. Imogen's turn to talk about family. She claims her mom died in childbirth and her father died when she was 16. Her response to Adilah's inquiry as to whether she has a man is sometimes. But the filmmakers helpfully switched the shot right at that moment to Malik, so we have a pretty clear clue already.
Yeah, I like because when the subtitles came on, obviously, when they were speaking French, but when you listen, when they were saying shapeshifter, he was saying metamorphosis or metamorphosis or something like that, and I don't know, it just made me happy for some reason.
A word you recognize?
Yeah, I was like, I recognize that word.
Yeah, that's cool.
I like the French language.
I do too.
I knew when they said je m'appelle, because that's the only thing I remember, one of the only things I remember from my French class is je m'appelle Kimberly.
You took French. I didn't know that about you.
Like, yeah, but I remember the numbers and that's it. Apart from that,
yeah.
My name is Kimberly. That's about it.
What about voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir?
Oh, yeah, duh. Doesn't everyone do that one?
Very unsafe going into a country when that's the only thing you know how to say.
That song came on the radio the other day and I was just like bopping out. I'm like, yeah. Haven't heard this for a while.
Yeah, I haven't either. I haven't heard it in a long time. Malik's boss has learned that the Americans are raiding the refugee camp tomorrow to collect the woman's DNA, and they've sent the most America has ever produced to Paris to annoy Malik. Josh Charles enters the scene. I love Josh Charles. I had a whole Dead Poet Society phase in middle school where I think I watched it every day for a month or something weird.
Oh, he was in that.
Yeah, okay. Long time ago. And then he was in The Good Wife. Did you guys watch The Good Wife?
Love The Good Wife. One of my favorite characters, male characters ever. And yes.
Same. I also shipped them pretty hard, I think, without having any idea what that meant at the time. But I was it didn't pay off all that well. It paid off a little, right? It paid off for a night or two, maybe. I can't remember anymore, but
it paid off for a while.
Yeah, okay. But yes, I love Josh Charles, so very exciting. Anyway, Apparently, his character entering the melee means this is very serious. The French don't want the Americans to take over, of course, though they did apparently call MI6 in to help.
So that's when we learn Lizzie is MI6, right? I should say Imogen. I keep saying Lizzie.
Yeah, same.
Raquel, did you say that you weren't sure if she was MI6?
I'm not sure if that's part of her like act. Like this is personality who she's meant to be now. And I've got the feeling that she may be playing Malik a little bit as well to get where she is. Like the way he's, I don't know, his boss, the one with the glasses, like the way he's talking about how he's biased, and so to be MI6, you have to be a British citizen. So if she is MI6, she must be British, but I don't think she is.
Are you MI6?
No, I can't be.
Imogen tries to shift attention from her boring life back to Adilah's, the granddaughter of a communist revolutionary who joined ISIS. Adilah sadly replies, "You don't join them, you jump off a cliff." So she admits it.
I thought that was interesting that she like never denied that she was like a member of ISIS.
Again, the same shifter thing. Is she meant to pretend that she's somebody else?
Right.
Kind of like, she's also having more personalities, or she's
it's like a mirror image to Imogen, right? Like they've both got
we don't know who anyone is. Very true.
And I feel like in the journey, and again that kind of like at the end when she's like deciding very like abruptly that she's going to believe her, I don't know if that's just again her playing Adilah, like she wants her to believe that she's believing her and she's trusting her. That's part of her act.
Right.
Trust as well.
Right. She was probably always going to turn that way and buy more time with her, for sure. You're right. But she makes it seem like it's this dramatic decision. Malik's boss says he has intel that a high-level female ISIS commander is part of a breakaway cell planning a huge attack on a Western target in the next week to 10 days. Malik has full confidence Imogen will find out if it's her, but the clock is ticking. Yeah, so that's when everything gets, like, the urgency is increased infinitely, right?
Just to confirm, a breakaway cell is just like kind of a break off of the main ISIS and they're like doing their own thing? Is that like
I think it's just kind of like a subreddit of Reddit. Yeah, like I don't know if it has the blessing of the greater ISIS, but probably does.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Imogen is injecting the antibiotics into Adilah's arm when Adilah asks why she hasn't unknifed her yet, and Imogen kindly but offensively explains she's just not scared of her. Tells her that her knowledge of hand-to-hand combat is a result of being attacked when she was young, and she wasn't going to let that happen again. She asks if Adilah has killed anyone, and Adilah implies the abuse done upon her in a garage where the men could do whatever they wanted to the women and girls. The witnesses against Adilah say she was giving orders to the men, but she maintains she was trying to stop the attacks in French, which the witnesses didn't understand. And then she set the women and children free. So the soldiers hate her more than the refugees. She's in more danger from them than from the refugees. She insists she has never killed anyone.
I wonder how long also she was at the refugee camp now, because like obviously Lizzie was bored. Obviously Imogen was bored in pretty quickly. So I assume she wasn't there that long.
Right. It didn't seem like she was there that long, and she wasn't recognized by the other people there. So,
well, everything seems to be put in motion to like find her now, whether that's because they've recognized her or because she's just been gone to that refugee camp and they know about it.
And that's what he said, like, or she said when she got there. She's like, "Oh, there was some excitement before I got here," implying that she was already on her way there, which I didn't understand.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, has she been placed in that refugee camp for a reason? Is this again, I don't know, a bigger plan from ISIS and then a bigger plan for the Americans? I don't know.
It's so hard to know what to believe.
Yeah,
it's just kind of all over the place.
But it'd be interesting to like go back to see if their stories do.
Oh, actually, jive.
Let's put a timeline together.
And now America enters the scene. The most American has a name, Max Peterson. Very American name.
That's a very American.
Yeah, that was literally my note. Very American name.
He's also watching the blue dot on his phone, and he also knows about the sex between Malik and Imogen. Everybody knows about the sex. How do they all know this? He thinks it maybe is a conflict of interest. And why they're at it, why is the genie of Raqqa in a shitty little car with only Malik's girlfriend roaming around the Middle East? Good question. I like him. Malik and Max are off to a good start.
I like when they had that little fight over
Tussle, yeah.
over the phone.
That was embarrassing.
Yeah.
They kick off their relationship on the moving walkway quite memorably with a physical tussle fighting over Max's phone, which Malik has managed to grab. Only broken up by the heavily armed airport guards approaching them. They were very nice, actually. I could have seen that going differently. Max officially states that the Americans are taking over the investigation, also sounding very American as he does it. And Malik says he can't while there's an active French field agent with the woman.
I feel like Americans always come into shows and they're like, I'm taking over this investigation.
Give me the case. Yes.
Yeah.
We're better. We know
Always.
better than you. Yeah. I apologize on behalf of my country for taking over your cases. With 30 minutes left of the road trip, we learn much more about Imogen through glimpses of memories. She lost something, she says, and ever since she's been trying to find out why she lost it. There's a man kissing her, not Malik. A red dress, not Handmaid's. Hands entwined in bed, hands playing a piano, a girl in a dress, Imogen or another girl walking through a field. You see the back of them? She wants to know why Adilah would go so far to join such an ugly, brutal circus, and Adilah admits she doesn't know why. Maybe she'd like to stay alive long enough to find out why. They're both looking for the whys behind their actions, it seems, and that decides something for Imogen as she turns towards Istanbul instead of Adip Koyu, which must have been their initial destination. Imogen looks quite pleased with herself.
But yeah, the reason why I don't believe she is English or British is because there were sunny, very sunny images in that flashback. Let's be honest.
Although the actor James Purefoy, which we see in the very last flashback, is English, so maybe it was just a sunny day.
She finally calls Malik back. Yes, she thinks Adilah was who they thought she was, but if she was, she's still not sure that she still is that woman. Malik stresses that Imogen is no longer following the directive, implying that this is a problem that happens regularly, or has happened in the past and gotten her in trouble. And she tells him to stop talking to the real her. It is extremely unhelpful. Right before Adilah returns to the car. You guys were saying like maybe she's playing Malik. Now that you say that, I feel like that little part where she said, "Don't speak to the real me." I don't know. That didn't feel that real to me either. So maybe she's playing Malik. I don't know. And now we have yet another Shakespearean quote: "For such as we are made of, such we be." The full quote, also from the 12th Night, is, "Alas, the frailty is to blame, not we. For such as we are made of, such we be." And Imogen telling Adilah she should know that she has no idea what comes next, and calling her friend. As she thinks of the man again, as the man calls her silly girl and says, "Begin."
What was that?
Strange.
That was
very...
that was random. I don't know if any of you have seen The Following, but if you haven't, you should watch it. It's Kevin Bacon and James Purefoy, it's a TV show. I really enjoyed it, and James Purefoy, the man that we see at the end, is
that him?
Yes, it is him, yes.
Oh.
And it's weird, like, you know, when you see actors and you just think of them in one show and like you can't get it out of your head. Like he was in a cult in The Following, and that's all I can see him as. So like when I see him, I'm like, oh my god, she's in a cult.
It's a cult. So what do you guys think of the episode as a whole? I'll start. For me, like, I really like the weekly release, which I've said many times at this point. I think it's really important to do the, like, dump at in the first day, the 2 episodes or the 3 episodes. But I think it's really important to, like, engage in the show. I think you need second episode, which I haven't watched yet. So I am excited to watch the second episode. But I think that would be necessary to get me, like, super, super, super excited about what's going to happen next.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of like a good setup, like, to kind of introduce, like, these 2 women, and like they're mirroring each other a bit with their like different personalities, different people,
but also a lot of similarities in their mysteriousness, and you can't trust anything you know about either one of them. I like them as a team, and I like Max and Malik as a team too, because they hate each other and it's always fun to watch.
That seems like it could be funny to watch play out.
I think I was expecting maybe a little bit more action because of the trailer, and because as we discussed earlier, we kind of knew that Elisabeth Moss brought her back. So I was expecting a lot of, like, I don't know, more action scenes.
What worries me is that it's a 6-episode season.
I hate when it's only 6 episodes. 6 is just not enough episodes, people. We want 8 at least. What do you guys think at this point? Do you think that she's good or bad, Adilah? Or do you think that she's planning an attack on the West, let's say?
I think, and again, I've not watched anything. I've got the feeling that Adilah may be involved somehow in what happened to Imogen's family, or whatever her name is.
Ooh, it's personal. Interesting.
That could be very interesting.
Yeah, when she said about like, oh, like a mother shouldn't abandon her daughter or something like that, it was sounded like really like menacing.
Yeah, it did. For sure. Deanna, do you think that she is ISIS planning an attack?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do think so. She's, or maybe not planning the attack, but yeah, because for like as I said before, she was giving so much information so fast.
Maybe she's a distraction. Maybe she's trying to pretend that she is that person, so the actual person does that.
Can do it. That's good too. I like it. All good ideas.
I'm very interested to see where it goes anyway, because it gives me. I like shows when they give you a lot of questions in the first episode, and I have a lot of questions. So
yeah, I feel like I'm looking forward. I feel like I'll like episode 2 a lot. I think episode 1s are always kind of hard to discuss in great detail because it's just too much.
Yes, definitely.
All right, I think that's a wrap on our discussion of episode 1. Come back tomorrow for episode 2. Thanks for listening.
Bye.